What would your reaction be if one day your son or daughter came to you and said they have a girlfriend or boyfriend or a spouse not of the same race? How would you react? Would you be disappointed? Would you be surprised? Would you be mad? Would you be happy? Or you didn't care at all?
I received this letter 2 weeks ago. This letter is from Rebecca S. Lane, Morristown, Tennessee. Dear Dr. Price, as you already know, I have watched your program for many years now. For a long time, you promised us your message on racism. I am writing to thank you. This be a white lady. Caucasian, white, what our society calls white. This is not a letter written from some angry black broad whose husband left her and she got 12 kids to raise and is on welfare getting food stamps. Dear Dr. Price, as you already know, I have watched your program for many years now. For a long time, you promised us your message on racism. I am writing to thank you for your bravery and willingness to obey God's wishes for your ministry. I have looked forward to this message for a long time. As a white person growing up in the South, it is very difficult to not be a racist. I have always been taught that blacks and whites are not the same and that we should always separate ourselves from those people, in quotes. I really can't blame my parents because they were taught the very same thing and their parents before them. I've been saying that and folk been laughing at me and making little jokes about it, and here's some honest person honest enough to say it. I don't want you to think I'm making excuses for myself. It's just that I haven't been to any church where the minister dare to deliver this kind of message for fear that he would lose his whole congregation.
Yeah, there are many church leaders who have a fear of the truth. That fear is based on a lack of congregationitis. This is a condition that attacks so-called ministers who are more concerned about lining their pockets rather than giving their constituents the truth of Jesus. Dr. Price was definitely not one of these ministers because when he first presented the series, Race, Religion, and Racism, there were many who didn't like the subject matter and left the church. But Dr. Price never flinched. And did it upset him, especially when those who were in the administration resigned? Yes, it did. But again, he didn't cave into the pressure of acquiescing to naysayers and doubters. And this is why after the end of the series, several years later, you started to see them show half of the church on their television broadcast. This is the type of man and character who was not led by the dollar, but the truth of God.
All right, listen on. As I got older and moved from my home in the mountains of Tennessee, I realized that color was the only difference. Have I been saying that, or have I been saying that? But see, I'm an angry black revolutionary, so you can't take it too seriously what I be saying. I got married and have 3 boys of my own. And I was determined to break the cycle of ignorance that my family, that my family had carried out for years. I was proud of my own self for breaking the chain.
And I applaud those who have the courage to break the chain, who have the tenacity and everything else to break the chain. But the real litmus test comes when this happens.
My children have many black friends, and I was so very proud of myself, right up until my youngest son started dating a black girl.
So see, this scenario is the litmus test. It's the truth bearer of your soul, because when this happens, it shows where you really stand, especially if it's a white man concerning his white daughter dating or marrying a black man. And if you call yourself a Christian and your reaction is bad, then you got some soul searching. And when it comes to being a Christian, here's where you should be. If you question anything, you should question if their mate is a Christian and if they are of the opposite sex. You know, these days you have to throw that in about the opposite sex. But yeah, first and foremost, they should be equally yoked as Christians.
And I serve notice on all you white and black ministers of the gospel that think you're supposed to stand up and talk against this series. The best thing for you to do is hold your tongue until you hear the whole thing, because you're going to make a jackass out of yourself. See, this is the stuff you don't want to come out. But honey, I told you before, Jack is out of the box. All right, let's go on. Watch this now. My children have many black friends, and I was so very proud of myself right up until my youngest son started dating a black girl. The moment I found out, my feelings of prejudice hit me in the face like a flood. Instead of cleaning up my heart, I had only buried the truth. I was a racist. I know you were right when you said that's the only way to know. You remember my acid test? I had succeeded in raising my boys the right way, but my own feelings were still the same. Dr. Price, I am so ashamed of myself. I really want to have a clean heart without any prejudices of any kind, but I still don't feel that I do. This is why I have been so anxious for your teachings on this subject. I hope once and for all I can rid my heart of all these things I have been taught. Please help me pray. See, I told you before and just a few minutes ago when I was over there on the other side, this stuff is not transmitted genetically. It's taught.
So the real test for anyone in this situation is when the moment of reality is at your door. Do you truly have a love for your fellow human beings as you profess to have, or is it just for specific individuals or circumstances? We can talk big when the issue is someone else's, but when that issue is at your own doorstep, then talk becomes cheap and your Christianity becomes hollow. And as I said, the biggest concern a Christian should have if that person is a Christian themselves. And if not, then the only redemption in your disappointment is your genuine reaction of love and caring for your fellow human beings, and pray for them to see Christ as their Lord and Savior. So renew your minds. Enough said.